Thank you for joining us on the Bills Blitzkrieg podcast. I'm Jack, here with my co-host Backhand, to soothe your sorrows and to look to the future of this franchise. How would you kick us off, Backhand?
We're here. That's what I'll say.
Not happy to be here, huh?
Not that I'm not happy to be here. It's very melancholy Monday, you know.
Well, I told you this day would happen. You know, you're always so happy to be here doing the podcast, but I guess we were undefeated. You know, our podcast is in its infancy, but we were at least undefeated for the first four. You know, this is the first loss we've sat down and talked about. You know, it was a tough loss. It was a bad game for the Bills. It was a really rough one. There was not much to like from that loss. But there's, you know, I think a lot of the focus of our podcast is looking to the whole, looking from the macro sense, and there's a lot to like from that season as a whole. In a completely shit year, we still had the Buffalo Bills have their best season in my living memory. I mean, I was born in 91, so those early 90 periods we were technically alive for, but I mean, if you're a millennial Bills fan, you can't really remember that, and you weren't old enough to really know what was going on anyways.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I mean, we got a lot to like.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I've only been a Bills fan for 10 years, you know. Right up from this year to, yeah, I'd say I probably started rooting for them around 2010, 2011. So even in this 10-year span, it's the best team I've ever seen. You know, we went through the Rex Ryan era, eras where we just, you know, we were going through quarterback after quarterback, couldn't find our guy. We got Josh Allen. We got great front office, great coach. So there's so many bright spots from this season, and it's hard to be a downer, honestly. After last night, watching them lose the way they did. I think it hurt everybody, and everybody's kind of processing this loss in different ways. So it's just, you know, you gotta kind of look back, like you said. This has just been kind of just a shitty year, very bleak to say the least. So Bills having the season they did gave us a lot of great memories, a lot of wins for that matter. So I'm nothing but like grateful for the whole team as a whole. Mm-hmm. And the season they gave us and gave to Buffalo and Western New York.
And I mean, I think we should get some perspective here. This is far better than a lot of the quote-unquote experts expect them to be. Even a lot of the Bills content creators. I remember going into season previews, most people had them 9-7, 10-6. I think there was a few that had them over 11 wins, national media. A lot of them had them 8-8, third in the AFC East. A lot of pundits were putting them below the Jets. So, I mean, again, in another year with Sean McDermott at the helm, they've exceeded expectations. I mean, they're making the most of what they have in Buffalo. And there's, if you take this season as a whole, it's a huge pro list and very small con list. This is exactly where I expected them to be. You know, I take a little solace in knowing I was right. I'll put my my season preview down in the comments on Twitter when we put this podcast out. I do have a little solace in saying that I predicted the Bills to lose to the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, although I mostly wish I was wrong there. You know, it's nice to be right, but I definitely wanted the Bills to make a Super Bowl.
Yeah, of course.
You know, it's
Well, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've already forgotten what I was going to say, so go ahead.
Well, it was just ugly, man. That was an ugly game, and they started out so hot. And they were gifted that touchdown with Mecole Hardman fumbling a punt at the 2-yard line. So they go up 9-0, and it's like, okay, well, we got the Chiefs with the bat, but you know, they've pretty much had a comeback win in every playoff game they've had in the last 2 years. So, you know, no lead is safe against the Chiefs, and I guess the moment was shown a little too bright for Josh,
especially 9-point lead.
Yeah, 9 points is nothing. That's like that's a single point for the Chiefs, who can score on a single play with guys like Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, I'm not hanging my hat. And
those were two weapons that were...
Yeah, they exploited the hell out of them.
Go ahead.
No, you're right. I mean, you're just about to make a great point. It's like Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill were blowing it up all game. Yeah. I'm not hanging my head.
Yeah, they have the weapons.
Mm-hmm. But before we get too deep, because we got some more to talk about with the Chiefs game, but Beer review.
In the spirit of the bipartisanship and cooperation, I raise this glass to my colleagues, both Democrats and Republicans.
As is tradition, I'm not drinking anything right now. It's 2:30 on a Monday afternoon. Although I have no qualms. Day off, I would often happily day drinking, although it's not much to celebrate. So right now I'm just sipping on some water. But what would you like to showcase, or what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a refreshingly natural polar cranberry lime seltzer. 100% natural and calorie-free. As bubbly as you could ever imagine. A sweet yet tart cranberry lime flavor. It hits all portions of the tongue just the right way. Can't say enough about it.
Very healthy and refreshing, Zach. Thank you for being a good moral influence on all of our 6 to 7 listeners, and myself included.
Well, as you said, it is 2:30 on a Monday. I was drinking at this point, well before this point, 24 hours ago. So we're taking today off. I'm just going to drink a little bubbly and eat some snacks throughout the day. Recuperating. That's the word we're looking for. But so just some seltzer today. We're doing podcasts a little earlier than we generally do. I might dip into them later on. And if that's the case, I've got some hazy little thing by Sierra Nevada that is kind of a go-to for me and has been for like the last few months. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's you can stop at the gas station and get it. It's always, convenience can be key sometimes. So that's what I've got chilling in the refrigerator right now, along with some Genesee beer, of course. Try to keep that on hand at all times. We might crack into them a little later, but might be a couple hours.
Yeah, I might go out myself a little bit later. I got the day off today, day off tomorrow. I'm on a weird schedule, but I put down quite a few. Had a couple of our friends over that we regularly watch the game with, and she brought us over a really interesting one. Another one from Froth. I've been talking about them quite a few times because they just do some really outrageous beers. They did their Liquid Lollipop Bills edition, and it had blue raspberry, strawberry, and marshmallows in it. And it actually looked and tasted like a blue icy that you would get at the movie theater. Wasn't one that I was glad to share it because it was very rich and sweet. But it was also really fun because
sure.
It was Buffalo Blue, neon Buffalo Blue, and it was just ridiculous. And it was a fun one, and I was hoping it would bring us some good luck, but unfortunately it wasn't so. But they're a really fun brewery, a really fun local brewery here in Buffalo. A lot of people really love them, and they do a lot of off the wall, outrageous sweet beers, and it's pretty fun.
Clearly they do.
Well, I mean, which is where it's trending. I guess we don't want to get too much into the beer trends, but if you want to be innovative in the modern age, it's hard to do traditional, purity law German beers and do something that you haven't had before. You got to pump it full of a bunch of adjuncts and make it look neon blue. But they
call it a beer.
Yeah, it's probably not really a beer.
Because why not?
Yeah. Well, let's get into the Chiefs game. There's no nice way to say it. They were outcoached. They were outplayed. And especially at the end of that game, they were outclassed. I know a lot of people want to make excuses. There was an ugly punch thrown at John Feliciano sometime in the second quarter. There was some chippiness. I think the Chiefs secondary might have been pulling some punches a little bit, but I think that was ugly. That was ugly to see at the end of the game. And, you don't want to see it in a disciplined organization. And I know Coach McDermott is going to have some things to say once the water's cool about that. And it starts and ends with Josh. Josh has been great. He's taken that huge step this year. But, I think he really showcased he's got one last step to do to become an all-time great quarterback, and that's having that composure. He didn't have that composure in the game. He threw that ball in that guy's face. And I won't... John Feliciano came out and laid him out. But, I mean, that's almost kind of what you want your linemen to do. And I see even a lot of the former players kind of celebrating. Like, hey, they're the bodyguards. They step up. Him and Deion Dawkins came and laid out Okafor when it looked like he was about to take another shot at him. But, I mean, it's still dirty pool at the end of the game.
One thing I'd like to see him do next time is protect Josh Allen a little better during the game when it actually matters. That would be nice, but you do like to see it's very clear that there's the locker room culture is nothing but excellent in Buffalo. So, it didn't surprise me that Feliciano and Deion Dawkins kind of stepped in and protected QB1. But yeah, I mean, that was that little flick that Allen did there. That was kind of the start of the unraveling there in the last 3 minutes of the game, and it was ugly and hard to watch, and it really just it made the loss kind of that much worse. You know, if I'm going to be candid about it, you hate to see a team that you've loved and put your heart and soul into, watched for hours on end all season, for them to not only get just out-coached, beaten square and fair easily, primetime night football, go down like that. It's it was kind of disheartening, but it was hard to see.
And I know a lot of people are really beating down on Daboll and Coach Frazier for being out-coached. Their game plan didn't measure up to what the Chiefs threw out there, but I don't think too much burning is required there. If we look back, I mean, only 2 teams this season have been able to put together an effective game plan against the Chiefs. One of those teams were playing against their backups on Week 17. The only game that KC outright lost this year was against Las Vegas in Week 5, I think. I think it was Week 5. So, I mean, Frazier's still a great coach. Frazier's probably still looking at a possible head coaching position this season or next. And we're lucky to have him. It's just, it's the Chiefs, man. This is one of the all-time great. I know we trend towards hyperbole a lot in the social media age and 24-hour news age. You know, we always want to stand up, but legitimately, this Chiefs team is one of the best in NFL history. They're at peak roster, peak salary cap situation. Well, maybe not into 2021, but this year, peak salary cap situation and peak coaching. This is a great team. I went into the start of the season. I didn't want to be right, but they're just not good enough to measure up to the Chiefs yet, and that's just what we saw. And it is what it is, and they're just going to have to get better.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can do. If any other team in Buffalo's spot, I'd wish them the best too against the Chiefs. I mean, like you said, they're at peak playing capacity right now and have been for the last, clearly, 2+ years anyway. Coming off the championship, clearly going to this year's championship against Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, and I think KC wins it again, back-to-back champions. I don't foresee the kind of mangled offense that really the NFC this year is nothing to write home about as far as I'm concerned, especially when compared to the AFC. So I see Kansas City winning again. You might see probably back-to-back MVP for Patrick Mahomes again. Wouldn't surprise me. But I think all in all, AFC as a whole, it's going to be a great rivalry for years to come outside of just the AFC East. So, as much as I'd like to root, I don't want to root for either team in the championship game on February 7th. Kansas City just coming off a win against our beloved Buffalo Bills, but I sure as hell not going to root for Tom Brady. So let's go. Let's go. Kansas City.
I don't want to root for the Chiefs either after they just dismantled us, but by principle, I won't root for Tom Brady. So I guess go Chiefs. Very unenthusiastically go Chiefs.
Chiefs are just, very unenthusiastically. This year, I'm there for the food, have a couple drinks, watch a commercial or two. But at the end of the day, just looking forward to some Bills football in 2021 and 2022.
Right. I mean, in the weekend are going to lip sync a halftime show, so that could be fun. Oh.
That could be fun.
Let's just talk just business. The salary cap situation. It's particularly hairy this year. The expectation is they're going to drop the salary cap by $20 million. $23 million, actually. We had $198 million for the salary cap this year. The Bills signed a lot of contracts with the expectation that would only increase. Yeah. And it's not just the Bills. Every team is going to be strapped against the cap. Every established team, every successful team is going to be strapped against the cap. When now it's expected to be dropped to $178 million. So right now the Bills, looking into the 2021, without Matt Milano and only 3 linemen, only have $2.6 million in cap space, which is pretty intense. Pretty intense for Brandon Beane to have to grapple with. Before we get into specifics, I just want to say how bullshit that is, though. Is that the NFL is going to exploit this pandemic in order to undermine player-owner relationships here. This has been decades in the process of trying to increase the salary cap to give the players a bigger piece of the pie as far as revenues go. And they're going to play it up like, oh, we lost $6 billion.
Sure.
They generated $10 billion still. They're not losing money. They're still making a lot of money. They have plenty of money to be able to absorb.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to your point of, it's crazy. Just the NFL will not fold under a global pandemic. I don't think they'll ever fold unless the entire country simultaneously becomes completely disinterested in football. Which, if that happens in our lifetime, I'd be surprised. But I don't foresee that happening. So to your point, they're just completely exploiting a pandemic situation and saying, "Oh, we lost some money," and I get that too. They got to pay it. They have people to pay, but I don't know. It doesn't seem right to do
and
this.
And it hurts the fans and it hurts the game product because you're sitting there and you build up your roster on the expectation that there is this amount of money to spend, so you're spending a little bit more for guys like Vernon Butler, Quentin Jefferson in a rotational role because that's where the market's dictating. But now all of a sudden you're going to cut that out right from underneath you and say that now you're going to have $20 million less to spend. So now what do? You're going to have to go in and have practice squad guys starting? Like I was digging into most this morning and I've been on Twitter. So I'm almost stealing this one directly from Nate Geary of WGR. But he's 100% right, and these ones really stand out. I think we're going to see cuts from Quentin Jefferson, who will save $6.5 million. Vernon Butler, $6.8 million. And this one hurts, but John Brown. I think John Brown's going to have to be shown the door, save $8 million on the cap.
Yeah.
And then Mario Addison. Mario Addison's a tough one because he's been okay. He's been okay, but he hasn't lived up to that contract either. I don't know. I've been talking a lot. You have any thoughts on any of that?
I don't. I'm because I haven't really had after the loss last night. I haven't thought much about the off season at this point yet. Still trying to process the loss and the whole season. I haven't really given much thought to it. But I do know that we have to have we have to get a pass rush in, and we have to do something at the RB role. I mean, I don't want to beat that into the ground because we've talked about that, I think, for the last 3 episodes. But after Singletary dropped that pass last night, I think that was really when the momentum shifted. I think it was just kind of the cherry on top of his pretty unsuccessful season, I would say, with the Bills. Or not unsuccessful, but just very lackluster. So no, I'd like to see some additions at those positions, and I think that's kind of the general consensus among Bills fans and Bills Mafia. So we'll see what they are able to do in the offseason with that limited cap space and just a few draft picks to go off from.
Yeah, you don't even need a superstar running back. You just need one that you can trust to be effective. Because the Bills were one-sided last night. The Chiefs knew that. The Chiefs exploited that, and they sold out to lock down the receivers. They got a couple check down throws to TJ Yeldon, but he didn't take much anywhere. And that's pretty big when you're playing greatness. When you want to play into January and February, you can't be one-sided. But that goes back to the salary cap situation: is what are you going to be able to do about it? When you have only 3 linemen, you're probably going to lose Matt Milano. Are you going to spend a draft pick? Are you going to spend one of your 8 draft picks on a running back? I mean, it's because you're going to need, even if you don't want to spend, which I value offensive line over any other position on the field. Even if you don't want to spend on the offensive line, you still need to field 5 of them. So you need to re-sign Darrell Williams, who's going to probably get at least $6 million. You're going to have to you'd hope to re-sign Feliciano, who's probably going to get somewhere around $5 to $10 million. So if you can't do that, then you got to go to the draft, and that's a crapshoot. Outside the first round, you have no guarantees. Offensive line is the toughest position to play, and it's the hardest position to get talent in. So you don't have any money to go get a free agent or re-sign who you have. You rely on the draft, but you also want to get some of those more luxury pieces like a running back who can, make your offense more versatile. So, I mean, Beane's back is really against the wall here. Unless they fold back on the $175 million cap, it's gonna be a really tough situation for him. Bright spot is though, they still do have 8 picks. You got a first, second, third, 2 fifths, a sixth, and 2 sevenths. So you can make some moves, but I don't know. Well,
and I'm confident that they will make the right moves and the best moves that they can.
Yeah. You got any thoughts for a position for that first round pick?
First round, boy, running back would be great. Epenesa's really as an edge rusher, not necessarily as pass rusher. He's been great all season. No, I guess I can't say I do.
It's tough because you see some holes. See cornerback. Levi Wallace has been fine, but you want somebody to go opposite Tre'Davious White that's a little bit stingier. Defense, they don't have a major pass rusher. The defensive line as a whole was pretty good at creating pressures, but they don't have a top-flight pass rusher. So that's another place you can go. And then you got running back. It's a lot of people would scoff at getting running back first round, but if they can add some more versatility, they can add a game changer to the backfield. That'd be a big plus for Buffalo. I'd say just with the situation now, and especially if they're not going to be able to sign a lot of those offensive linemen back, I think my number one right now is offensive line. Just because of the value you'll get in the first round and the need. But hopefully it doesn't have to come to that.
Yeah, I hope so. I did just see on Twitter Sal Capaccio, he's reporting this was 46 minutes ago. Cole Beasley broke his fibula last night and played through it, which is just absolutely insane. But speaking of that, Beasley, he's not getting any younger. He's been arguably one of the best slot receivers in not only Buffalo in some time, but the league as a whole, at least this year. So I don't know how much longer we see Beasley sticking around.
That's a tough one because he just had a career year, but a leg injury. Beyond, he's 31, 32. He relies on a lot of quick cuts. He's a smaller guy. You're really gonna have to monitor that leg injury, see if he can come back at full strength. That's tough.
Right. That is tough. Yeah. No, kudos to him. That's the personification of grit, playing through an injury like that last night. I was glad to see a couple of targets to him, but I hope he rests up and heals up well.
Well, that's a good way. Let's get into our cold takes and questionable analysis.
Boo! Oh, boo yourself.
This is where we take some stuff from Twitter, from the national media, or maybe just some crazy stuff we might want to say on our own, and we can just unpack it, analyze it, and get into it. So what's yours this week?
I don't have a cold take this week. I want to end that on a good note. After the loss last night, we talked about it in the beginning. How much of a blessing this Bills team has been to us this year. Even though they couldn't take it all the way, still gave us a lot of joy. So I will let you go right ahead.
Yeah, this might be considered the cold take on my end, but I think it's just that Bills team not being in control of themselves at the end. They were showing their youth, showing their frustrations at the end. And I know the Chiefs were taking some shots here and there throughout the game, but you got to have that composure. Josh Allen has to have that composure. Great season by him, but he did not step up to the moment. He was not ready for that game. His body language on the sideline once they started going down got pretty bad. I think he let that Chiefs defense frustrate him. And it ended with him just making a boneheaded, childish throw to the face of a lineman that could have gotten a lot uglier than it was. And you hate to see it. We're Bills Mafia, not Bills sore losers. Let's keep it classy. And I know Coach McDermott will clean that up, and he'll have plenty to say to him about it. But not to beat that down too much. But I hated seeing that out there. I don't want to see dirty play. I like to see rough play. I like to see gritty play, but not after the whistle. Not dirty stuff. You don't need any of that.
And it was just all foolish. And that's the thing, too, there were a couple minutes left. There was 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and we could have made a run for it. It's crazier things have happened in the game of football. We were down a total of 3 scores, but it was 2 touchdowns and field goal. Obviously, we didn't get that late touchdown that we really would have needed to make that push to go for it. But once that happened, right around the 3-minute mark, and whistles were just blowing like crazy, flags were getting thrown. The penalties ended up offsetting each other. It was just so stupid. The whole thing was just kind of ridiculous. Just very pointless, like you said, childish. And they, again, like you said, they showed their youth and why they weren't necessarily ready for a divisional championship game, let alone the Super Bowl. So, be looking forward to it next year. Hopefully, they grow a little bit in the off season, all around.
Yeah, Coach said all the right things too. It's a learning experience. It's a learning experience, something to grow from, something to build off of. they're going in. They still have most of their roster next season. So let's just, you just got to keep seeing those improvements.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, we had a shaky game last year against the Texans in the first round of the playoffs. We had a shaky game this year in the AFC Championship game. So hopefully we might have a shaky game that ends up as a win next year in the Super Bowl. It's just you never know. Lot of stuff goes down and happens, and all sorts of changes in the off season. But looking forward to it either way.
Amen, brother. So that will take us into our salutations and reservations.
It's time!
This is a little twist on a common podcast theme. Salutations are patterns of play that we have been loving to see over the past few weeks or even the whole season that we want to see continue. Reservations are those things that we're growing concerned about and we would like to see improved on. So kick us off, Backhand. What do you got for us this week?
Yeah, salutation. You made a comment to me earlier privately about how last night's performance might keep our coaching staff around for another season. And I don't know if that's necessarily salutation, but listen, we've all had gripes, especially with Brian Daboll. There have been some very questionable coaching calls from him under his reign over the last couple of years. Leslie Frazier, probably a little bit less. He's had some pretty great defensive teams, at least with the Bills. So it's hard. I'm not going to put them down at this moment, even after last night where they couldn't seem to make anything work against the Chiefs. I'm glad to see him sticking around. I think we had a great formula this year, and I don't see why it wouldn't work next year. So, yeah, hopefully that piss-poor performance last night will help keep those three around.
Yeah, at least we'll... Yeah, guys, they suck. NFL. Daboll and Frazier sucks. They need to stay in Buffalo.
Yeah, just listen to us.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, listen to us.
Yeah, but my salutation was Taron Johnson.
Yeah.
He sucked. He sucked for the majority of the season. He couldn't cover anybody, but he had a great postseason.
And last night was his night. Yeah. Yeah, last night was his night.
He played the best out of any cornerback. Yeah. He was the best cornerback on the field last night.
Right.
There was that one ugly highlight of him getting burned by Tyreek Hill, but besides that, I think past deflections, you saw Taron Johnson there, tackling in the run game. Taron Johnson was there. And then even going back to the whole postseason, huge play against the Ravens. Not a great game against the Colts, but he held his own and he played his position, he played his role. So there's a lot of promise there, and I look forward to him still being on the roster next season, which I did not ever expect to say. But I think we've locked down our nickel cornerback role, which is pretty exciting, which was a big concern to start the year with him.
Yeah.
But, he's really growing into his own, which is great to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, he had a great postseason. Hell of a night last night. He was kind of the one you saw making the plays. So, yeah, glad, as you said, glad to have him stick around.
What about any reservations?
Yeah, again, at this moment, I really don't have any reservations for the team that haven't already been mentioned, not only in this podcast, but former or previous episodes. I really can't. I don't have anything too specific, so why don't you kick us off for your reservations for?
Well, I guess you already noted on the running game earlier, and that's been a constant reservation, and that's going to be
exactly
that's a big glaring weakness.
Yeah.
But one that really stopped me last night was that and you said this earlier too. The old line got dominated. That's an underrated Chiefs pass rush. They have a really good front four that can get to the quarterback, but with a team that was in the top 10 as far as offensive line units, you wanted a little bit of a better showing. It looked like Josh was running for his life most of that game.
He was.
And when he was running for his life, a lot of time he was taking big losses. So that wasn't a good showing by them last night, and especially with only three linemen returning, which is Ford, Morris, and Dawkins. You got a lot of concerns about the right side of that line. Being able to hold up next season, it might be a whole new look offensive line. I just don't see them being able to bring back both Darrell Williams and Feliciano as much as I'd like them to. I just don't think there's going to be the money.
Yeah.
We're going to have to see what they can pull in with the draft.
Right. I guess I do have a reservation, but this has nothing to do with the Bills. But it is kind of pivoting from your point about Allen being in trouble after the O-line couldn't contain the pass rush last night. I saw on Twitter, I wish I could remember the account. I had some thoughts about, because Josh has gotten, I think he got 2 calls of intentional grounding last night, and it's certainly not the first one we've seen. I would love to see that call done away with completely. I think it's just kind of foolish. If the league really wants to protect quarterbacks, like they are saying they want to, and obviously clearly want to, after the protections that have been put on quarterbacks over the course of probably the last 5-10 years, wouldn't it make sense for the quarterback to try to throw that ball away in order to protect himself so the whistle gets blown? I don't know. I thought it was a super interesting concept, one that I hadn't really given much thought to. Although I hate the intentional grounding call. You lose yards on it. It's great if the opposing quarterback for who you're rooting for gets it, but never great for your own.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd be hesitant to do away with it completely, but I'm not going to say no because it's called really inconsistently too, and there's a lot of loopholes. It's like the tax law in the United States. There's just so many loopholes, and veteran quarterbacks know how to work their way around it anyway. So it's something you see as like, well, that's an intentional grounding, but technically it's not. So maybe they could just do it.
Yeah,
just chuck it down, and it could create some exciting plays on defense. Somebody takes advantage of a quarterback trying to throw it away. Lineman all more better. Yeah, instead of bringing the ball back, calling it an intentional grounding, and it was something I thought was pretty interesting. I don't think of them taking specific penalties away from the game completely from time to time, but I thought it was just a pretty interesting point, something to be considered and pondered. I had one other reservation too, and I really don't want to say it because this dude's my guy. He's my favorite player, since they drafted him in 2017 in the first round. I'm glad they drafted him instead of Patrick Mahomes. I'm glad they pulled him to Hall with Edmonds, White, and Allen. But Trey White got outmatched last night against Tyreek Hill. He was on skates. I mean, Tyreek Hill's a tough assignment, and he is in zone. So, I mean, it's not like he's playing man-on-man coverage either. But, he's their star. I would have liked to have seen a better game from him. And overall, he has taken a step back. He's still second-team All-Pro, so I don't want to overemphasize him. Say he sucks. He's still the best player on that defense, but he took a little bit of a step back this year.
Getting that money.
Yeah, I mean, people are saying that. I don't think he worked any less hard.
Most don't.
No. And I mean, he also consider this. Their schedule was a lot tougher this year, too. I did a short list. He faced Tyreek Hill twice, faced A.J. Brown from the Titans, Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Parker, Keenan Allen, Hopkins, Hilton, all this season. So you're going to see a little bit of a step back from that cupcake schedule we had last season to this year. And he was still a second-team All-Pro. But there was, last night I sat there, like, man, that's my dude, but he's looking like shit, dude. He was looking like shit last night, and I hated to see it. All right, so you have anything to send us off with, Backhand?
Anybody who is listening to this, if there's anybody out there listening to this, we'll probably take a little break here soon, but we will be back in the off season. Do not worry about that. Once more developments come in from week to week, we'll be continuing to be covering all things Buffalo sports as far as football goes. Jaff and I are both pretty new Sabres fans. I've been one for a while. Don't watch them a lot. They're just disheartening. Very hard to watch. So hopefully, hoping for a great season from them, and Jeff's gonna we're gonna be watching a little bit more Sabres. But yeah, this isn't the end of us for the season. As I said, as developments come in, decisions are made. Any news that's new, noteworthy, and worth talking about, we will be talking about. So it's been a great season. I just want to say thanks to everybody out there who has liked a tweet, retweeted, interacted with us in any way, shape, or form, whether that's reading an article, listening to this podcast as we just kind of try to wade our way through the sports media world, which is just a massive world to wade yourself through. We're just a couple guys, know a little bit about football, a little bit about technology. So if you're here and listening, thank you a million, and I hope you continue to listen and digest our content in any way you see fit.
Yeah, thank you for that, Backhand. That's a nice thing to say. And I'm really looking forward to going into this offseason to be able to get a little bit more topical talking with a podcast rather than this kind of formulaic setup that we've been doing. It's been nice to cut our teeth, but I'd like to be able to do, just 20, 30-minute segments. Get back to some more writing, too. I know started a little hot with the blog, start of the season, then got a little busy throughout the year. Didn't keep up on that, but there'll be a lot of fun stuff to talk about this offseason. This is the most exciting offseason, at least since last season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exciting for the Bills, too. But first season, we're going in with a complete team, and we're looking for how to improve rather than how to build something. So there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to talk about. And we're going to have a lot more stuff coming. Maybe not a regular week by week, taking a little break, but really looking forward to this offseason. We're going to keep stuff coming in, and like Backhand said, thanks for listening to all of you that listen. And it's always fun on Twitter, getting into conversations with everybody, getting into debates. And
yeah, I mean, this Bills Blitzkrieg is in its infancy as far as I'm concerned. We've been at this for a year, so you'll continue to see more and just hope to build and grow. And love you guys.
Again, thanks for listening to the Bills Blitzkrieg podcast, number 5. While we're disappointed in the loss, we're paradoxically excited to break down the offseason for all of you. Peace out, stay safe, let's go Buffalo.